The seventh commandment, 223. The seventh commandment is to circumcise after 8 days and remove the filth of the foreskin. It is so because that animal, Malchut, is the eighth among all the degrees, when beginning from Bina. And that nefesh, which departed her, must be seen before her for 8 days, as she is the eighth degree. Nukva of Zeranpin is called an animal only through her ascent and clothing of Bina, who is the eighth degree of 10 Sfirot from below upwards. Malchut, Nukva of Zeranpin, is also called eighth, because she rose by 8 degrees from her to Bina, and only then is she called Chaya, animal, like Bina. Thus, man's soul, born out of Nukva of Zeranpin, who is called animal and eighth, must be seen before the Nukva with corrections of circumcision and exposing on the 8th day after her birth. Then it is apparent that she is a soul from that holy animal and not from another side. Because then, by the power of the circumcision and exposing, the Sitra Achra is completely expelled from man's soul, and she can receive all the lights of that animal. This is the meaning of let the waters swarm, and thus she receives the upper mud from Zon and is completed in these waters. 224. At that time, it seems certain that she is a living soul, meaning a soul of the holy animal, Malchut, and not from the other side. This is the meaning of let the waters swarm, meaning the waters of the holy seed will be imprinted in the impression of the living soul. This is the imprint of the letter Yud, inscribed in the flesh of holiness more than all the other inscriptions in the world. Commentary. The writing explains, let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, as in inscription and depiction. Through the circumcision and exposing, the upper mud are depicted and inscribed, and are given to man's soul in an inscription and depiction of the Nukva, who is called living soul. The upper world, Bina, is inscribed and sealed with the letter Yud. The lower world, Malchut, is inscribed and sealed with the letter Hey. When Malchut, Nukva, rises and clothes the upper world, Bina, then the Hey comes out of her, from Ma, and Yud enters in her stead, such as Bina, me. This is the inscription of the letter Yud, inscribed in the flesh of holiness, more than all other inscriptions in the world. It is so because through circumcision and exposing, all the reshimot, the records of this world, from the letter Hey, come out of man too. And the imprint of the letter Yud comes in its stead, and was done in as it was done in Nukva that rose to Binah. And since the flesh of the holiness of Yesod is sealed with the letter Yud, the man can receive a complete living soul from the holy Nukva too. 225. And let birds fly above the earth. This is Elijah, who flies the entire world in 4 flights, to be there in that covenant of holy circumcision. And a chair must be set up for him, and to mention before him, this is the chair of Elijah. If not, he will not be present there. Here, the text explains, and let birds fly above the earth. Over Elijah, who flies the entire world in 4 flights. Below, he explains the verse, and every winged bird after its kind, as angels that fly and sail in the world in 6 flights. Here at the end of the verse, he explains that when it writes above the earth, it should not be interpreted as high angels, for they are not in the earth. Hence, it is necessarily Elijah. Fly above the earth is Elijah, who is always in the earth. Since Elijah extends from Nukva of Zeranpin and is always with her. Also, Elijah is not from the side of Abba Ve'ima, for he flies in 4 flights, indicating that he is from Nukva, from the Chazeh and below, where there are only 4 Sfirot. The angels are from the side of Abba Ve'ima. Hence, they are present only in the heaven, and have Vak, Chagat Nehi. Thus, when they come to the earth to carry out their mission, they fly in 6 flights, for they clothe in 6 Sfirot. But Elijah is not from the side of Abba Ve'ima, but from the side of Malchut, and is always in the earth. Since Malchut has 4 Sfirot from Zeranpin, Tanhi, from his Chazeh and down, he flies through the earth by only 4 flights, in clothing of 4 Sfirot Tanhi. And since the writing says, and let birds fly above the earth, it follows not it does not apply to the angels, only to Elijah, who is in the earth. But the verse, and every winged bird after its kind, where the name above the earth is not mentioned, applies to the angels who are from the side of Abba Ve'ima and fly throughout the world in 6 flights. Elijah flew through the whole world in 4 flights to be there at that holy circumcision. Because Elijah said, I have been very jealous for the Lord, for the sons of Israel have forsaken your covenant. The Creator said to Elijah, wherever my sons inscribe this holy inscription in their flesh, there you will be. And the mouth that testified that Israel had left the covenant will testify that Israel are keeping the covenant. Elijah was punished by the Creator because he accused his sons, as it was written, for the sons of Israel have forsaken your covenant. Of course, we should not take the matters literally, that Elijah was obligated to be present in each and every circumcision of the sons of Israel because of a punishment for accusing Israel. Also, why is it said here that he must be invited and mentioned in words, "This is the chair of Elijah," or "He will not be present there"? And if he must be present in each circumcision because of a punishment, then he must be there. And why does it require Elijah's testimony and that he will testify before him and that the sons of Israel are keeping the circumcision? Is everything not revealed before the Creator? Indeed, a great and terrible secret is concealed here under their soft words, as they always do. You will understand the matter with what is presented in the Zohar. Rabbi Eli opened and said, "Be whole with the Lord your God." What's the difference between tam, whole, and tamim, another way of writing whole? It is written about Abraham, "Walk before me and be whole," tamim. And it is written about Jacob, who was more complete. Jacob was a whole, a tam man. This is because there was no waste left in him at all, because he was circumcised. With what did he perform the circumcision and purify from that waste? That place that attacks the waste within, which is present in the place of the circumcision, is an ox, which is the form of the left of his throne. In the Merkava, in the chariot of the throne, the face of a lion is in the right, and the face of the ox on the left. The ox is called a whole, a tam ox. Since in the Merkava, the chariot of the throne, there is an inscription of the covenant. For this reason, this ox is called a whole ox. Also, Jacob is gripped in it and is the whole ox. He made the circumcision and completely removed the filth of the waist, since there is a prone ox on the part of the foreskin and exposing, and several litigants come out of him through the bottom degree, called ruins. And they all come out of that prone ox in conjunction with the evil donkey, the harsh judgment of the man'ula. And Jacob was a whole man, means the husband of that whole one. Explanation. There are 4 shells: stormy wind, great cloud, blazing fire, and noga around it. The first 3 are all impure shells. But the noga shell is half good, half bad. When the 3 shells are attached to it, it becomes entirely bad. And when it parts from them and clings to holiness, it becomes entirely good. These 4 shells are the siyum, the end of the partsuf. At the siyum of Yesod, where there are 2 skins, one atop the other. The first skin is called foreskin, and the 3 impure shells are included in it: stormy wind, great cloud, and blazing fire. The second skin is called the exposing skin, the noga shell, which is half good, half bad. Adam Rishon was born circumcised. because the three impure shells had no grip on him, and only the Noga shell was in him, the skin of exposing. It was all good, for it was separated from the three impure shells. Hence it clung to Kedusha. However, by the sin of the tree of knowledge, through the seduction of the serpent, which consists of the three impure shells, he pulled the other skin over him, the foreskin. As we learn, the Adam HaRishon was pulling his foreskin. It is also written, if its owner is warned, yet he does not confine it, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner also shall be put to death. This is so because when the foreskin jumped him and connected to his yesod, his neshama of Atzilut promptly parted from him. He fell to Asiyah and was sentenced to death. It was said that there is a prone ox on the part of the foreskin and exposing. Since the foreskin jumped him because he was failing, not eating from the tree of knowledge, and did not confine himself and ate, thus the two skins were defiled together for the skin of exposing, which is Noga, and also it was also defiled by its joining and adhesion with the foreskin, which is the three impure shells. However, there is a difference between them because the skin of exposing is called a whole ox and not a failing one, since it was in complete Kedusha prior to the sin of the tree of knowledge. It is defiled only by the foreskin that has attached to it. Hence, there are two special corrections, circumcision and exposing. It is written about the prone ox, the ox shall be stoned. Also, the foreskin should be removed and cut off from the Kedusha and be thrown to the dust. But regarding the whole ox, it is written, they shall divide its price equally. Also, the skin of exposing should be placed in Kedusha, connected to Yesod, but it needs to be halved and torn to here and to here, by which the mochin are revealed back to the Partzuf, and holy flesh is revealed.
He performed exposing in this ox and completely removed the filth of the waste, for by having the skin to here and to here around the Yesod, all the filth was cancelled and gone, for it received the skin of exposing through its previous connection to the foreskin. And the mochin that departed because of the foreskin could be revealed once more. However, this is still not enough to bring back all the mochin that departed from Adam HaRishon because of the sin of the tree of knowledge. For it is written, and its owner also shall be put to death, even though the ox is stoned. It is so because of the great power of the prone ox, who is the slandering sum. By what is written, its owner has been warned, yet he does not confine it. To correct that, Elijah took upon himself that same guilt of the sum, and slandered the sons of Israel instead of the sum, as it is written, for the sons of Israel have forsaken your covenant. By that, he closed the mouth of Sam, and Sam's mission was cancelled because Elijah took his mission upon himself. And then he had the strength to become an advocate when he saw that the sons of Israel were keeping the covenant. This is why Elijah must be present at each circumcision, so that the mouth that testified that the sons of Israel had left the covenant will testify that Israel are keeping the covenant. He took upon himself Sam's power to slander the sons of Israel, saying that Israel had left the covenant, as it is written, and its owner has been warned, yet he does not confine it. Hence, he has the power to testify that they are keeping the covenant. Then the power of the prone ox is removed completely, and all the mochin that departed because of the prone ox can reappear. Hence, besides the chair of the Godfather, on which the circumcision and exposing are performed, another chair should be set up for Elijah. And why is a single chair not enough for both? It is because in every place the chair is the beginning of the correction, the instilling of the upper one in the lower one. Also, the mochin that appear through the circumcision and exposing, and Elijah's testimony about the keeping of the covenant, are two distinct matters. The measure of the mochin that appear through exposing are on a part of the whole ox, when it is not known that it is an ox that gored. This is the returning of Noga to Kedusha, holiness, through dividing its price equally. Elijah's testimony, on the other hand, is to remove the ill of the prone ox, which is the power of the three impure shells themselves, and close their mouths, so they cannot slander. Hence, two chairs are required. One, the throne of the Creator, the throne of the Godfather, for instilling the actual mochin through the circumcision and exposing. And two, for instilling Elijah, who closes the mouth of the shells so they cannot slander. This is the chair of Elijah. We should understand why it is necessary to mention in words, "This is the chair of Elijah." Otherwise, even if a chair has been prepared for him, he will not come there. It is written, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" which is the mouth of Elijah. Also, the Holy Covenant is the mouth of the Creator. Hence, there is a difference between the Holy Covenant, the mochin that appear through circumcision and exposing, which are the mouth of the Creator, and the mouth of Elijah himself. To understand it, we should delve deeper into the matter of closing the mouth of the prone ox, so it does not slander Israel after the return of the mochin through circumcision and exposing. This is because besides Elijah's testimony, another special correction is required, which is done by throwing the foreskin to the dust. It is said in the Zohar that when a person is circumcised on the 8th day, when he is past the 7th day, which is Malchut, in Mochin of Abba Ve'ema, who is called holy, the foreskin is cut and thrown outside. The Sitra Achra sees that she is given a part of that offering of the circumcision, and through that gift, she turns from slandering to advocating Israel before the Creator. Explanation. It is the nature of spiritual ones that they are integrated in one another. And since the foreskin was once attached to Yesod, when it is cut off from Yesod, it takes a part of the Kedusha, holiness, with it. And when we throw the foreskin to the outer ones, they suckle through it some illumination from the mochin that appear through circumcision and exposing. This is why they no longer wish to slander Israel and arrest these mochin, for they will lose their share as well, which they take from these mochin. For this reason, they become Israel's advocates, to keep the mochin in them. This is why Elijah does not tolerate this correction. For although they stop slandering Israel, they take a part of the Kedusha in return for it. To correct that, Elijah took all the slandering upon himself and did not wish to appease them whatsoever by giving a part of the offering of the Kedusha. Hence, even though the Sitra Achra has stopped slandering and became an advocate, Elijah himself is still slandering to completely uproot the power of the Sitra Achra and separate him from the Kedusha. This is why the mouth of Elijah is required here, in addition to the mouth of the Creator, which appears through the circumcision and exposing, which leaves a part of the offering to the Sitra Achra. Since Elijah's mouth completely uproots the Sitra Achra. This is why it was said that the mouth that testified that Israel had left the covenant is the one that will testify that Israel are keeping the covenant. This is why it is necessary to mention in words, "This is the chair of Elijah." It is necessary to mention and to extend the mouth of Elijah on his chair and not settle for the mouth of the Creator, who removes the accuser and turns it into an advocate. For he remains committed to giving a part to the Sitra Achra. But through Elijah's mouth, he removes the accuser and does not need to appease him in any way for it. If one does not exert to extend the mouth of Elijah with his mouth, that is, on his chair, then he is not present there, for he must be drawn in. And it is not a question, how is it possible that the mouth of Elijah corrects more than the mouth of the Creator? For this is what God has created to do. Since the Creator began creation in a way that through one's good deeds, he will be able to complete it.
226. And God created the great sea monsters. There are two sea monsters, and they are foreskin and exposing, the cutting of the foreskin followed by exposing. Also, they are male and female, and every living soul that moves is the inscription of the Holy Covenant, a holy living soul, with which the waters swarmed, refers to the upper waters that were attracted to it, to this inscribed token. The sea monsters are a Leviathan and his mate. Opposite them are the foreskin and exposing, which are the bow serpent and the slant serpent, male and female, Since the foreskin is the bow serpent, a male, which must be removed and thrown to the dust, and exposing is a correction, removing the evil of the slant serpent, the female. It is written, and every living soul that moves, implying to the inscription of that token of holy covenant, since through the exposing, when the skin is parted, exposing to here and to here over the Yesod, the inscription of the Yud appears, the Siyum, end of the upper world, which is called Chaya. This is why it is called an inscription of a holy living soul, of which it is written, and every living soul that moves. It was said, upper waters which were drawn to it, to that inscribed token, meaning the mud of the upper world, upper Abba Ve'ima, which are called Chaya, extended only to the inscription of the Yud. Then the letter He comes out of the Ma, and Yud enters in its stead, and it is called Mi, like Bina. 227. For this reason, Israel were imprinted in a holy and pure inscription below, like the holy inscriptions above, to distinguish between the holy side and the other side. Thus are Israel inscribed to distinguish between the sanctity of Israel and the idol-worshipping nations that come from the other side. And as he inscribed Israel, he inscribed their beasts and fowl to distinguish between them, and the beasts and fowls of the idol-worshipping nations, happy are Israel. Also, their beasts and fowl were inscribed because man's relation towards the rest of the creatures in the world is as the relation of the collective toward the individuals in it. This is so because within man's body he includes all the people in the world in one collective, and each is an individual creature existing independently, apart from the form of man. Hence, as Israel are distinguished from the nations of the world by the human in them, that same division applies to the elements in them, which are beasts and fowl. The reason why he mentions beasts and fowl specifically is because the text mentions them. However, it is the same with all creations derived from Israel and from the nations of the world.